Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot for April 28th. I thought today, amid all of the bad news and the numbers and the nonsense, and frankly, some of the flat out stupidity, I thought we would take a bit of a look at Michael Bloomberg. Now, I don't actually think I've ever read on him. I know I haven't read on him before, like specifically. But I want to take a look at, there's been talk about, how much is he going to contribute? Is he going to honor his promise to contribute to the Democratic candidate, which of course is Joe Biden? So I want to take a look at Michael Bloomberg and see if we can get a bit of a handle on what's going on with him, what his thinking is, what his intentions are. So, yeah, come on down. Let's take a look at this, shall we? I have a question. Okay, so Michael Bloomberg, activities and intentions with regards to the 2020 election. Let's just take a look and see what we can see. So, I think I'm going to do it this way. So we're going to do Bloomberg, Biden election, Bloomberg, Biden election, Bloomberg, Biden election. Okay, so we'll see if that 10 of 1 has any significance. Okay, so right now it feels, not surprisingly, that the election has sort of taken second place, right? It's kind of moved to the back because there's something far more serious than life-threatening going on right now. But because of that, I think there has been certainly a bit of a slowdown in terms of focus on the upcoming elections, but certainly in terms of fundraising and that kind of thing. So there's definitely a little bit of a situation where people are just simply not focused on that, and that is actually impacting the money that especially the Biden campaign has to work with right now. There are partnerships that are being developed or processed, or perhaps I even want to say just being made public about people who are coming to the forefront to support the Biden re-election and, making it known that they're supporting him and doing what they can. Along comes Michael Bloomberg, and he very much looks like he is going to absolutely, I see not only money, but I actually see technology or help, that kind of thing. He's very much going to come in and do whatever he needs to do to ensure a win for the Democrats, because he at all costs wants this. Yeah, and as you know, this is one of my other cards for Trump, right? The King of Pentacles. He wants him gone. Like, he, in some ways, this is where this comes in. He actually feels like it is his job. It is his burden to carry, to do whatever he can do to get this guy out of office. So for sure, it looks as if you're going to see him there coming forward to support what needs to be done. And there's going to be some hard work. I mean, as bad as Trump is, as horrible as his administration has been in handling anything more complicated than, I don't know. I don't even know. Calling out for the morning newspaper, maybe. I mean, it's such an inept administration. But as bad as they have been, it does not guarantee the Democrats a cakewalk, in part because it's not only about the presidency, right? It is really important that the House holds, and really important that the Senate doesn't, and that they are able to crash through the Republican wall of the Senate and get that situation sort of back into Democrat control, where they can actually start making some significant changes and progress to correct the damage that has been done in the last 4, and in some cases 4+ years. So it's not just going to be Michael Bloomberg can hand over, a bucket of cash and Biden's just going to win. It's not going to be quite that easy, because there's going to be a lot of other stuff, frankly, competing for national attention, because the pandemic is, you've got this ebb and flow kind of thing with it, right? It's going to really, really rear up its head like a big wave, and then it's going to recede, and then it's going to come back again. And the second wave, at this point, there's sort of mixed information about whether it's going to be better or worse than the first one. So there's going to be a lot of distraction. But I mean, ultimately, the potential is absolutely there for the Democrats, especially with Bloomberg's help, to comfortably make it over the finish line. And so that is very good news. And like I said, it feels very much like it's not only going to be money, but other material goods. So whether that is technology or, literally IT people who are really, really good at what they do. I don't quite know, but I do know that he's all hands on deck, okay? And ultimately, it actually might end up being a very, very workable, partnership, because it's a sort of a desperate time, and they're going to work well together to create whatever offensive maneuvers they can to get this thing kind of moving forward, going forward, and and creating a more stable situation. Yeah, right now, it feels sort of like he is kind of working behind the scenes. He's kind of doing what needs to be done. It feels sort of like at this point, in some ways, he's keeping a low profile publicly, but it feels that he's actually been quite active behind the scenes, so that the people who really need to know that they have his support, they know it. It's just not being thrown out there in the public right now, because frankly, the timing isn't right. The timing isn't right. I really do wish that the media would stop the constant 24-hour pandemic coverage. It's depressing. It's the same stories over and over and over again. And I'm not saying they should, stop it all. Of course not. But it would be nice if they actually got back to at least some political news, because I think that there's important stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, because it's not getting reported, because everything is focused on this killer disease. But hopefully in the coming weeks and months, there's going to be a bit more balance, so that while people are busy dealing with one situation, there is also, if you will, an awareness of what's going on in a broader way. So, okay, so at this point, it very much looks like he is very committed to kind of helping those Democrats get back into position of powers on all 3 levels of government. That is what he is absolutely prepared to put his money towards. He's he was disappointed by the results of the his sort of run for the presidency, but it what it did was, in fact, it was interesting, because it was almost like it was more eye-opening to him than anything else. And because of that experience, he has even sort of more know-how or more savvy as he moves into position to start helping the Democrats. And like I said, it really does feel like it's not just the presidency. He's also going to be very involved in sort of those down ballot votes. But there's definitely going to be money available. and available to be used to strengthen the Democrats in all areas so that, they can get the crazy out of the office and they can start, replacing some of these people who are so dangerous, like the secretaries of people who just like Barr, right? And Mnuchin and, Pompeo and all of them. So they can get these people out of positions of power so that corrections can start getting made. So, it definitely looks like he's there and he's on board. And again, as it's just a better optic, that is when you're going to hear more about what he is or is not doing or contributing right now. Respectfully, they're staying sort of quiet, right? There's kind of a bigger thing going on right now in your country. Okay, so that was Michael Bloomberg. I'm going to sort of hit on a couple today, right? The next one I want to take a look at is Stephen Miller, and I don't like his energy. I really don't like looking at him very intensely. His energy, honestly, believe it or not, is actually more dangerous than Trump's. And this is the reason. Trump is stupid. And he's not. I mean, you cannot like his policies. You cannot like what he thinks or believes. But the bottom line is he is clever enough to not only be able to figure out a way to get his agenda dealt with, because that's exactly what this is. This is the Stephen Miller agenda. But he's certainly smart enough to keep Trump in line, basically, right? To keep Trump thinking that everything he thinks and does is what Trump wants. And he's very good at playing into Trump's biases and prejudices. And he uses that moving forward for his own agenda. So I want to take a look at Stephen Miller. And part of the reason is that there was something I came across the other day, and it was saying that this whole 6-week suspension of immigration is actually sort of the first step in his plan, or one of the earlier steps, because I mean, God knows they've enacted enough horrible stuff already. But this is just another step in his broader scheme. So, and of course, you know what, using the pandemic is an absolutely brilliant way of sort of getting compliance, or so they think. You know, what they don't realize is that, honestly, by and large, Americans are not as hard-hearted, as cold-hearted as they like to think they are, and certainly as some of their followers are. So let's take a look at Stephen Miller. Come on down. Let's see what we see. Okay, so Stephen Miller's strategy. Stephen Miller's strategy. Stephen Miller strategy. Yeah, he's moving ahead. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what's going on. He is moving ahead with his agenda. He wants the laws changed. It is as simple as that. He wants for immigration what he wants to see happen, which is literally sort of trying to return America almost to a white society. That's not going to happen. But he is continuing to push. So even though we haven't heard a lot about him, even though we have been distracted, he's not been stagnant or still. He is very, very busy behind the scenes, pushing forward his agenda, couched in the terms of it being Trump's agenda, except the reality is, and we all know, that Trump's agenda is whatever the most forceful voice in the room says is his agenda. And Stephen Miller, honestly, it appears as if he has really perfected knowing how to stay on Trump's good side and convince Trump that he is the best authority, if you will, on immigration matters. He's charging ahead, okay? He really is. He is not slowing down. He's not anything. In fact, in some ways, he views what is going on now within the country, the whole pandemic situation, he views that sort of crazily as a bit of a blessing because the spotlight is not on him. The spotlight isn't on anything that gets done. I mean, it was sometimes last week, I think, when they announced this sort of 60-day freeze on immigration. And within 12 hours, the story had sort of fallen by the wayside because the numbers keep increasing and the numbers are getting scary. And you've got, governors who are doing really stupid stuff. And so even the fact that this thing was enacted, it just didn't cause a stir. And because it didn't cause a stir, well, that is perfect for him, right? Because that means, great, we can push harder and we can get more done right now because people are busy not paying attention, right? Because they have other things on their minds. And the other things they have on their minds have to do with getting good information, getting funds out there, helping the people who are in need, whether you are trying to get, equipment for the nurses, the hospitals, whether you are trying to figure out how to create supplies, whether your job is, being out there on the front line so other people can live their lives, right? So the country's distracted by this, and Trump and Stephen Miller are over here on this side with some of the Republicans going, yeah, let's see how much we can push through while everybody is distracted, while the United States is actually responding like human beings and caring ones at that. Their agenda is to push as much stuff forward as they absolutely can. So there you have it, right? I mean, they literally, it's to their advantage that people continue to be distracted and focus on what they're focused on and then not be looking over here at what's going on very quietly behind the scenes. But make no mistake, anything that they were not able to accomplish in the last couple of years in terms of immigration, they're going to try to slam some stuff through, again, while people are really distracted with more humanitarian concerns, with, family, friends, that kind of thing, care, compassion, feeding those that need it, sheltering those that need it. They're over here kind of doing the devil's work, if you will, honestly. So I guess he's one that somehow or another going to want to have to keep a bit of an eye on. But trust me, he's in expansion mode right now, okay? He is not, and he doesn't care if he crosses the line. He doesn't care how close he comes to stepping on the line. He has his agenda, and he is not going to be distracted from it, frankly. And, in ways, he feels that they have been quite victorious. They have accomplished a lot of stuff that they wanted to accomplish, or at the very least, they've tangled it up in so much paperwork and court stuff that it's allowing them to kind of get away with what they want to get away with while it keeps kind of being reviewed and there's lawsuits and there's whatever. They keep pushing the line, and they're going to continue to do that. There's going to be a lot of work to untangle what they've been doing, not only in our faces but behind the scenes. So yeah, this is the thing, right? He will defend what he thinks and how he thinks it and why he thinks it. And he has a way of communicating that is very aggressive and very, very in your face. He's one of those people who just likes to open his mouth and words just spew out at an alarming speed and sort of creating all of these ideas, and then he kind of sews them all together. And so in some ways, he's actually it's hard to absorb everything he's saying because not only is it from a bunch of different pieces at once and he's throwing it at you, but it's very aggressive, it's defensive, it's sort of really in your face. And so that behavior is going to continue, and you can bet that there's a whole lot of it going on, again, behind the scenes where we are not necessarily seeing it. And unfortunately, right now, it does not really appear as if the government in power is particularly interested in adhering to the law or rewriting the laws in a way that is helpful. They only want them rewritten in a way that is going to be beneficial to themselves or their vision for the United States. And in some ways, the government is honestly sort of hamstrung, right? They can't maneuver because this guy's in the background like a steamroller. But again, ultimately, are they going to succeed? Probably not. They're gonna cause problems. All right, it's not like it's just going to be no. Right? They're going to cause problems. There's going to be issues concerning their behavior, what they're doing, and what they're trying to implement. But ultimately, they're going to be stopped. And whether they're stopped by the courts or whether they're stopped by an election, they're going to be stopped. Ultimately, they're going to walk away disappointed because were not able to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish with their prejudice, behaviors, thoughts, and ideas. There's going to be stuff, frankly, to fix. I don't see a tremendous amount of harm or disruption that is sort of permanent. It feels like it's more, what's the word? More fluid than that. So there may be disappointments in the short term, but I think overall you're going to see it getting balanced ultimately. Okay, and the last person I want to take a look at quickly is Mark Meadows, that new chief of staff, who there are reports that he spends a fair bit of time crying and complaining because everything is in a state of chaos. There's no control. There's nothing's organized or fluid or makes any sense. And it's like, you know what, buddy, if you didn't figure that out the first 3 years when you were spending all your time saying, let Trump be Trump and he's the best thing for the Republican Party and I stand behind him. Well, good. Okay, so now you're a little bit more behind the scenes and now you can try to figure out how to rein this sort of lunatic in. And I guess you're discovering that you can't. And so, wow, I guess your job's a little bit harder for you than maybe you expected it to be. He is another one, Mark Meadows, who, there's these people who are so ego-based that they really, really believe that they miraculously are going to be the one to make this man change his behavior. It can absolutely is amazing to me that they keep believing it. They can look at all the predecessors and say, yeah, it didn't work for any of them, but they still stand there thinking, no, I'm the one who can make this work. And he also is going to be destined ultimately to be really disappointed. But let's take a look and see how he's doing right now. And maybe we can get some clarity on kind of what's actually going on behind the scenes at the White House and with the administration. That would be really interesting to get a bit of a handle on. So let's see what we can find out about the new Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, and how he is faring these days. How are things going for good old new Chief of Staff? I don't know, what number is that? 4th, 5th? I've lost track. So here we go. Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff. Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff. Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff. Let's just see what's happening in his little world, shall we? Okay. So he viewed he wanted to be chief of staff. Make no mistake, okay, this wasn't something that was thrown at him and he was reluctant. He lobbied for that position. He really, really did see it as a political stepping stone for himself. He really thought that that was going to actually be a good strategic career move for him. Well, it didn't take very long for him to realize that, in fact, that was incorrect thinking. Once he got in there and he realized that really, this, and again, he has, a history of politics, right? And so he has some idea of how government should be run and the strategies and protocols. And for the first time, with real clarity, he realized all of that stuff has been not just discarded or ignored, but literally put through a shredding machine. And he's lost. Honestly, this is the energy of somebody who, like, bamboozled. Bamboozled is literally the word that's coming to mind. He is someone who simply was not prepared to see behind the Wizard of Oz's curtain, if you will. And what he saw when he looked there was, frankly, really terrifying to him, okay? He had no idea that things were that out of control and that wrong, basically. And, I'm sorry, we're talking Mark Meadows here. I don't know that he has that strong a compass about that which is right. But I guess whatever's going on back there, it even kind of messed up his standards, if you will. So yeah, he's definitely he's trying to figure out how to get things working back there. He's not making a lot of headway. He realizes now with more clarity that Trump really is this incredible loose cannon. And he also is starting to understand exactly how much stuff they kept quiet, how much stuff was hidden. So, sorry about that interruption. So he's just getting some actual clarity that, you know what, oh my God, I didn't know things were this bad. And I'm out of my depth here. That's what it feels like. It's like I don't even know where to start because there is no kind of rhyme or reason to what goes on back here. You're not going to see him playing a very big role. It didn't take him long to figure out that the fewer people who remembered that he was chief of staff, maybe the better it is for him. It does not look like he is going to really try to take any sort of an active role, particularly I almost want to say with the virus, the pandemic, he's really going to be keeping a bit of a low profile. He doesn't want his name associated. It was almost like he walked in there and was just shocked. And, maybe if he hadn't spent all of his time watching Fox News, he wouldn't have been so shocked. Maybe if he hadn't spent all of his time trying to spin the nonsense that was coming out of Trump's mouth, he wouldn't have been so shocked. But it appears energetically like he was almost like stunned. And so he's just sort of stumbled back and he's almost like trying to absorb how much worse it is than he even had any indication of it being as bad as it is. And it doesn't, with the Empress sitting there, it doesn't really feel like he's going to be able to get it under control. It feels very much like that sort of kinetic, crazy energy that is the White House is going to continue. And in fact, it makes perfect sense that it's going to continue, right? I mean, Trump is moving closer and closer to an election that really it's not looking like quite the shoo-in he had told himself it was. And so there is even more volatility that you can expect from Trump as he, really starts to recognize that he's in a fight for sort of his political life. And so he's not going to be controllable. So Mark is just going to continue to be more and more frustrated. Now, I don't want you actually feeling sorry for Mark Meadows. This was a choice and a decision, as I said, that he lobbied for. This is what you call the consequences of actions, right? That was the choice he made, and now he is dealing with the consequences of the choice he made. And ultimately, he's also going to leave. Okay, I don't know. I suspect that by the time the election really kicks into high gear, either Mark Meadows is going to be completely sidelined, or behind the scenes he is literally going to be impotent, neutralized, not have any real say or force. But you know what? Again, he was doing this for his own ego, for his own satisfaction. This wasn't so much about helping Trump. I mean, again, he recognizes that Trump is a great tool and he's manipulable, and you can get him to do stuff. But he did it for his own personal satisfaction, for his own ego, and he felt that there was definitely money to be made. And it's a crazy, crazy thing. Is these people are so motivated by money when it comes to Trump's administration that they just don't see clearly. And here we have the Fool, which again is one of my Trump cards, and the Eight of Swords, which of course is talking about kind of being imprisoned. So Mark Meadows is being imprisoned not only by his own attitudes, but he's being imprisoned basically, excuse me, by the situation that he's now trying to deal with. And honestly, it doesn't look like he's going to have a whole lot of success dealing with it. Okay, so there we have it. Mark Meadows, Michael Bloomberg, and Stephen Miller. I hope you found that interesting, informative, insightful. Again, a quick heartfelt thank you to all of my subscribers, new and established. Thank you for the comments, the thumbs up, the suggestions. It's all been wonderful, and I very, very much appreciate it. Take care. Be well. Until next time, bye-bye.